Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to NRBP's program webinar on Profiles of Women Leading in a Crisis. I'm Barbara Kaufman, Executive Vice President and COO at New York Regional Business Partnership. And it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you to what I think will be a really wonderful conversation this morning. I have been looking forward to this program, perhaps more than any other that we have hosted, because I really believe that this is a time when leaders can be transformational, where leadership in all sectors will really be transformed in terms of the composition, that this is an opportunity for women to step forward and to be able to take positions in leading companies and help to solve some of the issues and challenges that are presenting themselves, and also to capture the opportunities. I see this through my lens at NRBP as in my role as COO and Executive Vice President, and also in my volunteer role as President of Executive Women of New Jersey. With Executive Women, we have done research over the past 8 years in collaboration with PwC on the status of women in the corporate sector, on corporate boards, and in the executive suite. And while we've seen a steady rise, we know that the numbers are still really quite poor in terms of the percentage of women in leadership. And there are a number of factors that are influencing that. The reports talk about solutions and ways to begin to overcome that, including the way that people are selected, the types of positions that women are appointed to. Many other things are included in those reports, which are available on the EWNJ website. What we do know from that work is that from every measure, companies that have gender diversity and diversity in general are better from every measure. Consumer loyalty, share price, less incidence of fraud, and many other things. Institutional investors such as BlackRock and State Street have divested from companies because they have felt that that's a way to start to drive the change if they show with their money, and it's been effective. But companies with above average diversity are more likely to outperform, and that doesn't vary with the size of the company or the industry. It's across the board. Very strong evidence. This is a time when we're witnessing very, very rapid change in just about everything that we knew. In addition to the way we work, the way we report to the office, and some of those things are going to be permanent. Some of them will go back to the way we knew them before, but undoubtedly there will be some changes. This is a time when we can perhaps move closer to parity for women, and we can focus on the even more dire situation in terms of women of color in leadership and start to change the composition with that as well. Got a little bit of an echo from someone. Oh, okay. In any case, before we turn to our moderator and begin the program, I want to just mention a couple of other programs coming up at NRBP. Next week, we begin Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion mini-series, and we're beginning with Ryan Haygood, the CEO at New Jersey Institute of Social Justice. He will be speaking about foundational issues and exposing how the cracks have been exposed in the foundation as a result of COVID, but also some of the recent news and reaction to what have been a long history of injustices that have occurred. On August 5th, we are looking at marketing and why this is the time to market, and We can direct people to Michelle Hayes for help with getting the word out in terms of advertising. So that will be a really excellent program about marketing. August 13th, we'll be looking at cybersecurity and why you need to be even more careful today. And then on August 18th, we're continuing our diversity series with a look at law enforcement, community police relations. So with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce our moderator today and say a great thank you to Berkeley College for sponsoring today's program. We're very grateful for that, and if anyone is interested in being a sponsor, please contact me. We will go through the program. Angela is going to lead the conversation. We will pause at about 10:45, and I will look to see if there are questions. If you want to ask a question, you can put that into the questions box in your sidebar, and I will ask any questions that people may have. There will be a recording available after the program. If you want to listen to this again or share it with someone, you may do so. Other logistics, you will all be muted, and your cameras will be off for the duration of the program. So the questions box is the way to say what you'd like to have answered. So with that, I'd like to turn to Angela. I'm going to leave you for a few minutes, and I'll be back when we get to the questions period. Angela, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Barbara, and welcome everyone. I want to thank you, Barbara, for bringing us together through your vision and your tireless efforts to raise awareness, eliminate barriers, to elevate women and equity in the workplace. You're doing a tremendous job, and I know it's been your life's work, and it's really a pleasure to work with you and to be in this event today with these fascinating women who are going to lead us forward as well. Berkeley College is proud to sponsor today's event, Profiles of Women Leading in a Crisis. We have been educating New Jersey's workforce at Berkeley College for 90 years. For more than 20 of those years, online education has been a part of our mission to empower students by preparing them with the credentials to enter dynamic careers. Education is transformational. Today, we have 5 transformational leaders with us. Laura Mashtaler, owner of Black Swan Espresso. Gail Friedberg, CEO and co-founder, Zago Manufacturing. Alejandra Ceja, Director of CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility at Panasonic. Michelle Hayes, Associate Vice President, New Jersey Advanced Media. She heads the marketing there. Ann Ernie, Chief People Officer at Audible. These women are leading their organizations through the COVID-19 disruption by reimagining the future of work. They're doing it with empathy, collaboration, imagination, and by putting people first. As we get started with our event today, I'm going to ask our panelists to please introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of a background to your journey to where you are today in your careers. And we'll start with you, Laura Mashtaler.
Hi, I'm Laura Mashtaler. I'm the owner of Black Swan Espresso in Newark. We've been open for about 4 years, and we provide specialty coffee and teas to consumers in the area. I think that's about it.
And we're going to get into the more of you and Black Swan Espresso shortly. Gail Friedberg, Zago Manufacturing.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, my name is Gail Friedberg. I'm the CEO of Zago Manufacturing. We opened our business in Newark at the NJIT Institute, NJIT, the New Jersey Institute of Technology. We've been in Newark all along. We're in a building now on East Runyon Street. And, you know, we're dedicated to staying in Newark and manufacturing self-sealing fasteners, which are high-tech fasteners used in, you know, 100 different industries.
Thank you, Gail. And now we'll go to Alejandra Ceja. Alejandra, you're going to talk to us about how you got to Panasonic and your Director of Corporate Social Responsibility there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to join you all for this important discussion. My journey begins in education. I've advocated for educational equity my entire career. I have the honor of leading Panasonic's foundation and our community engagement efforts, and just really looking forward to today's discussion.
Great, thank you. Anne Ernie at Audible.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and really excited to join this this panel today. Just of terrific women in very different roles, but all with the same goals. Again, Anne Ernie, I'm the Chief People Officer at Audible, and I oversee everything that touches our people. In other words, at HR and the places we work, all aspects of real estate and facilities. I'm also heavily involved with Audible's Activate Caring principle, which is part of our people principles. And I just wanted to share it because I think it's a great foundation for this discussion. But at Audible, we do work to improve the lives of those without privilege in cities and countries, because Audible seeks to be what a company can be beyond what it does. And I think that's what attracted me to Audible and this opportunity. I just want to say that I'm a Newark native. My grandparents lived in the Weequahic section. I was born in Newark, and it's just really exciting to be back and be part of the rejuvenation and the economic revitalization of the city. I want to end by saying I grew up on Wall Street. I spent my first 30 years of my career in fixed income and equity sales, and transitioned over to the HR world when I was asked to lead our women's network when I was at Lehman Brothers. And from there, I stayed in HR and committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion for the last 15 years. So excited to be part of this conversation.
Thank you, Anne. And we're excited to have you all here. We'll start with, we're going to now go to Michelle Hayes.
Hi, glad to be here, everyone. I'm the Associate Vice President of Marketing for NJ Advanced Media. In that role, I oversee our marketing research team, our award-winning creative design team, and our strategy team. I've been with NJ Advanced Media since its inception in 2014. NJ Advanced Media is part of the Advanced Publications umbrella company. And I have been with Advance for 20 years, starting at the Star Ledger, also in Newark. And prior to my life in newspaper and digital media, I was in network television. I worked at ABC Television Network for many years as a director of audience research, doing daytime and children's programming. So I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to the discussion.
Great, great. We'll start with Anne then. First, I want to say that I grew up on the borderline of Newark and Elizabeth and Hillside, and I spent a lot of bike riding days, bike riding to Weequahic Park. And Berkeley College is also very well situated in Newark with a campus on Broad Street. So there's a lot of synergy here with each of our organizations. And Anne, how have you been leading through this COVID-19 disruption? What have been some of the challenges, and how have you overcome those challenges to set a new direction at Audible?
Well, thanks, Angela. And I just wanted to kick off the conversation by saying we're all watching from home during COVID because it has changed every one of our lives. And when I think about the impact of women during the crisis, there couldn't be a better time that we're stepping up to lead. I was just reading an article that talked about COVID worldwide, and of the countries that are doing well, of the top 10 performing countries, 4 are led by women, and 2 countries that have eradicated, New Zealand and Iceland, also have been led by women. And there's been some discussion about, like, what is it? Is it traditional women qualities that have helped us really excel in this crisis? And the answer is it's really a combination of sort of your traditional qualities of empathy and collaboration and positivity. But I would also say it is so much about our speed and no nonsense way of getting things done, particularly when it endangers the health and wellness of people. And so I would just start by saying that this is not my first rodeo. I've been through several other crises throughout my leadership career, helped lead Lehman Brothers at the time through September 11th, Hurricane Sandy while I was at Bloomberg, and even helped lead teams through the economic collapse of 2009. And I would say that at Audible, we moved very, very quickly as the crisis started to escalate in New Jersey and New York region. And those attributes that I talked about in terms of leading through crisis, empathy, speed, collaboration, transparency, and positivity all played out in the days that led up to our decision to ask people to work from home. And I would say to you that the weekend before March 12th, when we all did go home, I got a call from my head of real estate and said, you know, Ann, this thing is not looking good. We should think about moving quickly. And I kind of have to say, I kind of dismissed it in the conversation on Saturday, could not sleep all Saturday night, and Sunday morning woke up, called the team and said, we need to move and let the CEO know on Monday that we're going to start from work from home. And I'll tell you, the team did pull together very, very quickly. And even before our parent company, Amazon, announced that we were all going to work from home, we were well on our way. We set up a cross-functional crisis team that met every single day for the first 3 months of the crisis. And we had folks from HR, from real estate, from communications, our IT department, because we had to get everybody up and running through our Chime video chat, and also our business continuity plans. And it was through this cross-functional team, which by the way was nearly 50-50 female, we really did manage to get our employees up and running at what we believe the same level of productivity that we had prior to the crisis. The other key part of our transition from regular work to the new world of COVID was around communications. And we did send out daily global communications and arranged for our leaders to have reoccurring what we call all hands, where we bring everybody together to talk about the issues that we're all experiencing, including, by the way, which we can talk about later, some of the mental health issues that our employees are experiencing, the child care and other parent care issues that have come up. And we worked very closely to understand what the issues are by sending out regular surveys to our employees. So I'll close by just saying part of all of our jobs on this call are to be dealers in hope, and that we want to make sure that we drive positivity because we will get through this. We just need to work very closely together.
That's great. And another key factor, optimism, key factor in leadership. Thank you, Ann. You have an organization behind you, and we have Laura Mash-Taylor, who has the owner of Black Swan Espresso, doesn't have that big organization to assist her, those cross-functional teams. Laura, how are you managing during this time, and what's getting you through as a leader?
I think what's getting us through basically is the fact that we are networking with other organizations like NRBP, with other women out there who have small businesses. It's been a very difficult road. Nonetheless, we pivoted in terms of we're not depending basically on the traffic, foot traffic within the city right now. We pivoted so that we are now looking at retail and online. So the model has changed a little bit. We're looking more to, as I said before, network with other organizations and other people within the community to try and keep the business alive at this point. So that's some of the changes, because we don't have, HR, we don't have any of the large organization departments that a lot of the larger organizations have. So it's been a little bit more difficult, but I think it's been doable because, again, there are people in the community that we can go to help us in terms of organization and driving business. So I look to the business leaders in the community, I think.
So as an entrepreneur, it's important to make those business connections in the community, to work within the community. Organizations like the Newark Regional Business Partnership, NRBP, are very instrumental.
Very instrumental.
And how are you? Go ahead. Laura.
I was just gonna say, because they point you in the right direction. I mean, you might not have that connection. You might not know who to talk to on a particular issue. It's nice to know that you can contact NRBP and say, hey, I'm having this problem. Who would I speak with? Who just point me in the right direction, So I think it's very important to have organizations like that, and also to speak with other small business owners in the area. So that also helps us to get a pulse of what's going on in the city at this point.
And in this time where all businesses are trying to survive, pivoting, Michelle, what are you bringing to the table at NJ Advanced Media, and talk about some of your skill set and how you've been able to manage this change.
Okay, so at NJ Advanced Media, some of the things that we have focused on, like a lot of companies, is the pivot to working remotely. Within 2 days, we got everyone on board and equipped and able to go home and work from home with only the minimal essential people in office. And for us, that's also a great task because we don't just have one office. We have about 6 offices across New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, and also Staten Island. So there's a lot of moving parts in there. And so with that, just getting people equipped, then as Anne mentioned, dealing with sort of the mental, emotional aspects of what all of this means for everyone once they move out and everyone's acclimating to a new way of working. Thankfully, I think we have very strong teams and very strong bonds here. So it was a fairly seamless for people to still coalesce around various projects. We were already using Teams, but this now helped push the envelope for those people who they have it, but we don't really use it. So now everyone is sort of together in the same environment, all using Teams. We have used Zoom to do other webinars and things like that, but that helps coalesce the teams around certain things. There have been certain task forces together to work from a perspective of dealing with our clients, understanding that we work very directly with local businesses and they are all going through their own struggles. So how do we come together to figure out how we help those businesses? So it's both inside and outside of our organization that we've been working to make sure all of the pieces are still running and operating as fluidly as possible. So for us, trying to help support local business is certainly one of the very big things. And then from a leader perspective with my individual teams or a lot of the leaders within our organization, just really trying to be emotionally connected and listen a lot to what's going on with people as they venture into their own new realities of schooling from home, while working from home, while babysitting from home, or being a caregiver to someone who may be unwell, and then for their immediate circle of people, they may also have spouses or something that are in industries that had to shut down completely. So, there's a lot of emotional stress going on for a lot of people. And, the challenge of being connected and supportive goes a long way to help people manage what they need to manage while also managing what's going on at work. So it's a delicate balance, but we've taken a lot of effort and initiative to try to support people in the best way that we can, allowing as much flexibility as we can to make sure that everyone kind of moves through it together and intact.
Yes, and moving together and moving on to Gail Freeberg. I see you shaking your head very much through Michelle's comments here. You've had to pivot your organization into providing equipment, bolts for ventilators. You have an essential workforce. Many of your employees, English is a second language. And so talk about what you're doing at Zago Manufacturing to really support the caregiving aspect of your employees' needs, the homeschooling. How are they meeting those demands? What are you doing to assist in those areas?
Well, yeah, I was shaking my head in agreement with Michelle, because so much of what leading in crisis has been is flexibility and consistency in messaging. We're a small business. We don't have a lot of employees, but that being said, every employee right now has a different schedule. We're not working 8:30 to 5. We open at 6 in the morning. We close at 6 at night. We only have one shift, but now it's a very long shift. We had in the beginning, because we were an essential manufacturer, we never shut down, and we wouldn't have shut down, because we were making, as you mentioned, we were making parts for ventilators, and we felt it was very important that we keep going, we keep working. We have a great partnership with GM and Ventec. It's not a bolt, it's a 256, which is a very small screw. But we had to get up and running very quickly. And when I talk about consistency in messaging, as we all know, in the beginning of this crisis, there was very inconsistent messaging coming from the federal government versus the state government versus municipalities. And the onus was on business leaders, I feel, to be consistent with our employees, that, to tell them that this is a crisis, this is a pandemic. Even a week before Governor Murphy issued his orders, we had told everybody who could stay home to come in, pack up their things, and go home. But we also had employees who couldn't work from home, and we had to assure them that we understood that this was a crisis and that we were going to keep them safe. And with respect to consistency in messaging, that hasn't changed. I know New Jersey has opened up, but we haven't changed any of our procedures. We're still requiring masks and 6 feet of social distancing. And everyone who could work from home, can work from home, is still working from home, and will continue working from home, for the duration, however long that is. And none of us really know how long that is right now. And, the flip side of it is that there are some employees who don't work well from home. People who live alone, who are isolated, you have to take that into consideration also, their well-being. So someone who could come in and work by themselves in an office, but really felt that, they needed to not be isolated, you have to listen to that too. So, that flexibility and consistency, I think, is what has gotten us through this.
And Alejandra, what are you learning through this crisis and bringing that flexibility and also that empathy to the workforce? How are you contributing as a leader at Panasonic?
Sure. I think women are natural born leaders. As a leader, as I reflect on my own journey, I think that it's okay to not be okay. We're living through a pandemic. Communities are suffering. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of unknown factors. We know this is going to go into 2021. So I think I've just really taken a time to pause and reflect on how I can best meet the needs of my community, my family, how I balance. But I've just come to the realization that it is okay to be vulnerable. I think it's important to note that we have to continue providing communities of color with leadership in this time. I think, to Gail's point, when there was an information gap, really understanding that COVID has brought a lot of attention to the disparities many of us knew existed in our communities of color. And as we talk about rebuilding our economy and strengthening our economy, we cannot lose sight that we have to restore our communities, and we have to continue to put a lens on a lot of the issues that I'm fortunate to work on at Panasonic, is put a lens on educational equity, put a lens on the future workforce and what it means for our Black and Brown communities. So for me, this has really been an opportunity just to really reflect on how I can best position myself to continue to lead. And I'll just share, as I was reflecting on my own career journey, I never took an opportunity because of the title or because of the role or because I was going to get a fancy office. It was always about how I could best advocate for communities of color. And that's something that I carried with me in my work in government, and that now I'm fortunate to carry with me in my work in the corporate sector. So I just want everyone who's out there listening just to know that it is okay for us to be vulnerable. None of us have a playbook in terms of how to best address what's happening. And I think, as Laura mentioned, just really relying on our networks and really kind of trying to pull together as a community to make sure that we could continue to provide that leadership.
Well, that gives us a segue to the external focus. While many of your organizations have been looking internally, you've also been reaching out externally. And so let's start with you, Anne, about Audible and how you quickly responded and set the path to meet community needs.
Sure. Well, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, Audible has a real commitment to our Activate Caring principle, which is really about that urban rejuvenation. And pre-COVID, as Laura knows and our employees love Black Swan, we sent our employees out every Wednesday to really make sure that they patronized and visited all of the local restaurants in our neighborhood around Washington Park. And when COVID hit, you know, one of the first things we were concerned about was the restaurants lost our support. And we have 1,730 employees, a little over 1,000 of which are in Newark. And we realized that that money was no longer, not only was it that money from Audible no longer going to support the restaurants and the ecosystem that was just starting to flourish in our neighborhood, but of course, all of our corporate neighbors. So actually, two senior women at Audible had this idea to create something called Newark Working Kitchens, NWK. And it was an opportunity to create a flywheel in which we could divert some of the money that we were using to allow our employees to have free lunches and the ability to go out, and convert it into a free meal delivery service for Newark residents, for those who could not go out and get their own meals and who were hungry. We even surveyed our own employees and found many of them asking for food, particularly some of our younger employees and our interns. So the idea was to create a flywheel that would sustain jobs in the restaurants, make sure that they continue to cook, continue to serve the community, and make sure we got food to those in critical need of food. As of today, we've served over 290,000 meals, and our goal is to hit 1 million. We've raised, not only have we put in our own money, but we've been working with our fellow corporates and the city and state to raise additional money. And the idea is to get to 1 million meals by the end of this year. We're also looking at the possibility of NWK delivers for employees in the future. So when we do bring our employees back, maybe rather than having food service come in and supply our employees with food, that we would leverage the restaurants for 5 days a week. So these are things that we are working on. It's just a matter of when we'll get ourselves back to work, and in the interim, make sure we have enough money to sustain Newark NWK.
Thank you. And what about the aspect of helping individuals helping individuals? Gail, this is a topic that you are really close to in terms of women being allies for women. What can you say about having those difficult conversations or reaching out to women at a time of crisis, and also in their careers, to help them along in their careers?
Well, you know, my career has always benefited from the women that I've worked with, who I've been able to raise up. You know, the smartest woman I work with is my vice president, Jackie Luciano, who became the vice president when I left that position to become the CEO. And you know, it's made our organization better. As Barbara had mentioned in the introduction, you know, diversity is fantastic for organizations, including small businesses. You know, on our management team is an engineer, a lawyer, and an MBA, Jackie, who we sent to Rutgers Newark for her MBA. So it's, you know, in our company, it's always been about, you know, pushing our women employees forward. You know, our women employees are, you know, the majority of the managers in our company, and it's benefited the company. With respect to reaching out to the community, we've reached out a lot over the years to, you know, the high school students in Newark, trying to bring them in and introduce them to, you know, what manufacturing careers can be. It's harder now. We had 2 interns that were working with us from Cristo Rey High School this year, and unfortunately Cristo Rey High School closed and those interns couldn't come in. But you know, we continue the connection with them by bringing one back as our, you know, intern without that Cristo Rey program, and another that we're going to be paying for his tuition so that he can finish school. So there, you know, we have to find, at this time, other creative ways to get back to your community, to get back to the community. And, you know, our employees are the community. They live in the community, and by making sure that they have what they need and their families have what they need, I mean, that's also our way of giving back to the community.
Laura, how are you giving back? I see you also very excited about this topic of giving back to your employees. How are you? Talk about some of the things that you're doing at Black Swan Espresso to support.
You know, I think what Gail is saying is very important in terms of trying to keep people employed. My biggest thing is, ever since the pandemic hit, is to keep my employees working, keep the paycheck coming in, making sure that they have money. We've also tried to, we try and work as a family. We work more as a family now than I think we ever did as employees, making sure that if we go shopping, we do a group shop, so everybody has food coming in. And if I'm at a store, or a restaurant depot or a Costco, I'll ask my employees, hey, what do you need? Okay, and we send that around to make sure that everybody is taken care of in one way or another. In terms of transportation, I'm really trying to stay away from any of my employees using public transportation. So we all sort of group together. Those with cars will pick up the ones who don't have cars and sort of get them to work. And luckily, most of the employees that I do have do live in Newark, so they do walk to work. So we really try basically to keep people employed and have their needs being met, whatever they may be. And, you know, keeping an ear. One thing that I've noticed about the pandemic in terms of the employees, they rise to the occasion. I'm so surprised to see so many of the employees take on responsibilities that they didn't take on before. But now, because of the pandemic, now we've got, you know, people who I didn't know are now web designers. Okay, so they redid the website. There are other people who are interested in marketing, who are pushing our retail sales of coffee and teas. So it's interesting. Oh, and the chef, he's now gotten out sandwiches and so on. Before, he was just focused on catering. So I feel like in some ways, while it may be a negative that we have this pandemic, it's also brought out some of the best in some of my employees. And that's really, really nice to see, because whatever the next venture is, whatever it is you're going to do in the future, you kind of know, hey, I always thought of you as a barista, but now I know you're a marketing genius, you know? So it's just nice to see people rising to the occasion and doing something different as far as the employees are concerned. So yeah, that's what we're doing at this point.
And Michelle, how have you risen to the occasion? How has New Jersey Advanced Media risen to the occasion? I'm really struck by that $10 million grant program that you have for businesses that you've offered, that people like Laura can take advantage of if she wanted to get an advertising opportunity, say.
Right. So like I mentioned earlier, that, you know, for us, we were dealing both internally and externally with a lot of our clients. You know, we are a media company, so on one side of the house are our journalists and photojournalists who go out to cover the story and bring important local news to the community. The other side of the house for us is advertising and sales, and working with small, medium, large companies to promote their messages. in this time, obviously, you know, like Laura, she's trying to keep people employed. She's trying to keep paychecks flowing, and hard decisions have to be made with companies on where they're putting their expenditures right now. They still need supplies to do the business that they do. They still have people to employ, but when they have less business coming in, that affects their bottom line as well. And we understand that. And so for us working with our clients, there's two things that we've done. One is companies that that are already clients with us, that have continued to maintain some level of marketing promotion to keep their name out there, because you do still have to market to some degree through a crisis. We have been able to leverage the extreme influx of more eyeballs to our websites and our newspapers because of COVID. There's so much more engagement there. And we've leveraged that additional extra audience that we are generating right now to provide sort of bonus impressions and things like that to help them along. We understand it's a difficult time. Then we also have the $10 million matching grant program, which as the economy is starting to open up, and we recognize that depending on what industry you're in, your rate of opening or reopening is going to be different. But as the economy does slowly start to open, we want to be there to help give companies that extra little boost and to kind of like kickstart their efforts again. There are plenty of companies, you know, that are still completely shut down, like gyms and things. So, but as their time comes to be able to reopen, we want to be able to give them a little more leverage. So if, you know, if they're going to do any kind of a marketing program, we will match it to help them get more mileage out of their advertising expenditure. So, you know, there's an application process to do that, njadvancemedia.com/cares. But, you know, once we get in the applications, then there's conversation. We figure out how we can help them move through that. So we've been doing that, but also doing other things with, you know, other clients, like matching them with other things for, you know, recognizing the value of long-standing clients and things like that. So, so that's sort of what we've been doing externally. And one other small thing is it's sort of an internal and external for our employees twice a week. And I think Anne mentioned something similar. We randomly pick 4 employees a week to win a free lunch the company will pay for. And then, you know, so that one is sort of a morale booster, a nice thing to help them not have to cook one meal or something, but it also helps stimulate some business to the local economy by them going out to buy dinner from their favorite restaurant or whatever. And then the only catch is they have to then email the entire company and say, this is where we ate and this is what we got and how great it was. And just like an overall uplifting feeling for everybody in the company.
That's wonderful. And of course you would need them to describe their experience, your marketing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very nice.
I want to see what you
Angela,
think.
Yeah. We do have a few audience questions. The first one is asking about how, not necessarily everybody comments, but if a few can comment on what you do for self-care, because this is obviously a stressful time. What sorts of things have helped you to get through this?
I can start if that makes sense. And I'll share 2 things. One is I do meditate and I do go online and listen to sleep meditations. And this is not a cheap opportunity to do an Audible commercial, but I will mention that we did put out an Audible sleep collection for relaxation. And we worked with Arianna Huffington's Thrive, who really believes that one of the most important medicines that we could give ourselves every day is sleep. So I would really just encourage everybody that you know, one of the best self-care is to sleep and to get enough hours of sleep, and make sure you afford that. And if you can't, to get online meditations, which I honestly, you know, do almost every night. So it's very, very helpful.
And I've accessed those. I've accessed those, and also I will put in a plug for a book I recently started listening to called Mythos. It's a 15-hour book, and it's about the Greek gods. It's keeping me quite entertained. Gail?
The most important thing I do for self-care is the first thing I do every morning after my cup of coffee, which I'll now be getting my beans from Black Swan Espresso, is I walk with a friend. Every morning I walk with a friend at least 3 miles. So I get my exercise and I get my therapy, and that's how I take care of myself. And then I can go on with the rest of my day.
I also do meditation, and I've been downloading. We have a partnership where we're able to access Audible books. So I've been downloading my Audible books, and right now I'm reading one from Brene Brown on Dare to Lead, which I think is very telling for this conversation. But you know, I was going to just say there's a strong sense of community in Newark, and I think it's a testament to the women here and a lot of our leaders, our local leaders. And I just want to thank leaders like Catherine Wilson and Roger Leone, who we've been fortunate to partner with on a lot of the food relief we've been able to provide to students. And so just a lot of the self-care also comes from connecting with our friends that we haven't connected with or never have time to meet with. So I do think it's important to just take some time for yourself to also connect with a loved one or a friend that you haven't talked to in a while.
For me, I've been doing two things, which are sort of opposites, but one is, like Gail, at the end of the day, somewhere around 5:30, I go for the walk to kind of clear my head of everything that's gone on for the day. I may or may not get back on my computer after that, but at least I get in the walk. And to balance that out, I am going to start taking stock in ice cream companies because I am I've got to balance the walk and gelato. They go hand in hand.
I remember at the beginning of the crisis, no one could get toilet paper or good ice cream flavors. Those were all gone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think for me, I do something a little bit different. I get up early in the morning. I'm a runner, so I like to go out and run, or I'll hit the ball against the wall, as I like tennis. So I'm more along the lines of, yes, I do meditate, but I like the physicality of, you know, exercising and getting out early while it's nice and cool before everybody else gets outside, and, you know, you pass people with their masks and so on. But I'm usually one of the first people out there at 5 or so, you know, trying to get out. But now, with it being so hot, everybody's out at 5. Now it's almost like Grand Central Station out there. It's crazy. But I used to get up and be by myself. But now, you know, I do a lot of exercising to, you know, for self-care.
Okay. Before I get to the next question, I wanted to do 2 acknowledgments. The first, we've been talking about how valuable our teams are, and I particularly wanted to acknowledge Maya Curry. All of you on the panel connected with her, and without Maya, we would not be viewing this webinar and many, many other things. She leads our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative at NRBP and does all of our communications. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Maya for her hard work in making today possible. The second is to again thank Berkeley College. Chip will do so in his closing, but I just again wanted to thank Angela for leading us in this conversation. Berkeley is really a true community player and has been an important part of NRBP for many years. The final question is a long one, and I'm not even sure I can really capture it that well. It's from a woman named Suzanne Quincola, who's a nurse scientist of clinical quality for a private healthcare company. And she was picking up on what Anne was talking about feeding the community. And she said, you know, a core mission of nursing science is to continue to act as public health advocates. Have you considered partnering with nurse scientists to help close significant equity gaps that exist? As a young leader, what pearl of wisdom could you offer for me? So I don't know if anybody wants to tackle either aspect of that question.
Barbara, could you just repeat the second part of that question?
Yeah, I think maybe we could focus on that part. The you know, she asked if there were any pearls of wisdom that we as leaders could share with her as a young leader.
My advice would be, don't doubt yourself because the men aren't doing that. You know, women have so much self-doubt. We question our competencies all the time. And I think men just assume that they're competent and capable to do anything. And we are just as, if not more competent and capable. So just, if there's any challenge, just go for it. Don't question it, just go for it.
Love it, Gail. I would totally +1 to that, and also say, you know, women don't ask. A great article in the Harvard Business Review, and just, of course, I'm blanking on the author, I'll remember in a sec, but this notion of like, go hard and go early. You're young in your career, and ask for what you want. Justify why you deserve it. Work hard so that it's obvious, but, you know, we often wait for that tiara to land on our head because we're going to be recognized. And I would just say it won't land on your head. You need to ask for it. And if it doesn't come right away, then understand the path that you need to take. And as Gail said, you know, be more confident and don't let that imposter syndrome prevent you from following that path.
Thanks. Good advice.
Angela, I'll turn to you for any closing words, and then we'll have Chip come back to wind up the program.
Well, I want to thank everyone. You have inspired me this morning. I want to offer, as a follow-up to this event, we're going to produce a special newsletter highlighting this conversation, highlighting Black Swan Espresso, and where people can go to shop for their coffee. I want to thank, the advice that you shared is so important. We're going to continue the dialogue during Women Entrepreneurship Week at Berkeley College in October. And I also want to call on you to participate in that event because it's a wonderful opportunity to meet with a few hundred women across the New York metropolitan area, inspire students throughout the region. I want to thank you again. I want to thank my Berkeley family. And all of you who are in the audience here today for being a part of this important conversation leading us forward. Thanks, Barbara.
Chip, there we go.
Thank you. First of all, Angela, thank you, and thank you to Berkeley for your support and your leadership of this session this morning. I think it's been terrific, and certainly there's a lot of good advice in there, whether you're a woman or you're an old white-haired guy. So I really appreciate the insight that you've all shared with us this morning. And I'd also like to recognize, Barbara as a leader in her own right, both here as well as at Executive Women of New Jersey, and all the good work that she does. So round of applause for sure. And Barbara mentioned earlier, referred to Maya. You talk about emerging leaders, and Maya's certainly one, and we're lucky to have her on our team. And I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by women here. We've got Nikki and Naisha, Charisma and Kim, in addition to Barbara and Maya, who all do a great job and look to put our members first. And that's really our mission here at NRBP, to help our members and support our members in any way we can. So with that, I thank each of you for sharing your experiences today. They've been, in some cases, very different, and in others, very similar. Different size organizations, different range of experiences. But really, the bottom line is that leadership matters. And we're better off for encouraging more women, elevating more women, being allies of more women ascending to positions of leadership. We'll be better off in our businesses, in our communities, and our country if we do so. So With that, I thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing all of you, both participating in the call as well as attending at one of our programs very soon, whether it's our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative, our mini-series coming up, or one of our Nexus networkers. It's a great way to stay connected, and we look forward to doing that with you. So stay well, enjoy the rest of your summer, continue good work to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.